Diddy was running some kind of Epstein type deal where he was filming everybody. Genuinely love it when someone like Diddy gets caught, though. I mean, he had a lot of people at those parties, right?
I was never at Diddy's party. I don't even know the motherfucker.
We're out
I don't
here
want to know nobody.
telling jokes.
Nobody.
If you don't have what they need, they're gonna leave. Gotta keep them there. You need locks on the doors. You need a lot of heat. You don't have no air conditioning. Heat affects the alcohol. Everybody gets a little bit more comfortable and loose. Builds up a nice little sweat. You need some good music, and you need me, of course.
Yes.
So tell me about your birthday party. Am I invited?
Yes. Yes, you're definitely invited. I invite you to all my parties. You just haven't seemed to show up to
No,
any
well,
of them.
is it on the East Coast?
Yes.
Well, that's why. Why don't you have one here on the West Coast? Because I work all the time.
Okay, well, maybe I have one at your house.
Where's that?
Joe Rogan recently made a comment that set the internet on fire. This time, he pointed out the unusual quiet surrounding Ellen DeGeneres. While the Diddy controversy is dominating news headlines and social media, many people are asking the same serious question: why isn't anyone putting the pieces together? Ellen's name keeps popping up in these discussions, but it feels like everyone is choosing to ignore it. When Diddy was charged at the federal level, the internet reacted the way it always does and turned into full investigation mode. Old videos began to resurface. Interviews that once seemed funny suddenly felt uncomfortable and strange when viewed today. That's where Ellen becomes part of the conversation, and things start to feel even more questionable. Viewers began reposting old clips of Ellen and Diddy from her talk show. Many noticed how unusually relaxed they appeared together, laughing, joking, and casually talking about extreme parties as if it meant nothing. But now, with new details coming out, those moments don't seem harmless anymore. Something about their dynamic and the way those conversations happened just feels off.
All right, we're back with Sean Diddy Combs. Is it Diddy today? Because sometimes you're Puffy and sometimes you're Diddy. Or sometimes you're Daddy. What are you today?
I'm so confused today with it. As long as you say it in a nice way.
All right.
It's just all right.
Yeah.
Now that the narrative has completely changed, those old jokes are being replayed as if they carried hidden meanings. People are rewatching the clips with a new perspective, questioning whether there was more behind the laughter than anyone noticed back then. What once felt harmless now feels layered, and curiosity is growing fast. This is where things start getting even more intense. Joe Rogan didn't hold back when talking about this situation. According to him, there's a specific reason Ellen isn't being questioned the way others are. He highlighted that Diddy appeared on her show multiple times, and their conversations about parties weren't random or insignificant. They were on camera, relaxed, and surprisingly familiar. Now many viewers believe those exchanges weren't just casual jokes. Instead, they may be small clues connected to a much larger story that's only beginning to come together.
What are you holding there?
I'm holding my package.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to do it.
When you take a step back and really think about it, the quiet around this whole situation feels impossible to ignore. It makes people ask whether this is just an unfortunate coincidence or a subject no one wants to go near. Things feel even stranger when you remember how Ellen's talk show ended after the huge toxic workplace controversy. That wasn't just another viral story, it completely changed how the public saw her. Not long after that, Ellen and Portia moved to the UK, and she openly linked the decision to political tensions in the United States. But many people weren't convinced. To a lot of viewers, the timing didn't look like a simple lifestyle move. It felt more like a signal that something else was happening behind the scenes. Maybe it was just chance, but audiences rarely settle for a maybe. That's why people keep revisiting old clips and interviews, trying to understand what really went on behind those studio doors. Before going deeper into Joe Rogan's opinion, it's important to understand why Ellen's name keeps coming up in this situation. When BuzzFeed News released its major investigation into the Ellen DeGeneres show, her "Be Kind" image collapsed almost overnight. Former employees spoke out about intimidation, racism, and a toxic work culture that made staff afraid to speak up without risking their jobs. What hit the public hardest was the contradiction. The show was built on kindness, yet the behind-the-scenes stories described an environment filled with stress, fear, and control. The backlash became so serious that multiple executive producers were let go, and Ellen eventually addressed the issue on her show. Still, even after her apology, the controversy never fully faded. The conversation turned into one major question: was the issue limited to a few executives, or was it the overall culture of the show? Ellen claimed she wasn't aware of everything happening off camera, but that explanation divided viewers. Some accepted it, others didn't. Either way, her once perfect reputation had already taken a serious hit.
As you may have heard, this summer there were allegations of a toxic work environment at our show. And then there was an investigation. I learned that things happened here that never should have happened. I take that very seriously, and I want to say I am so sorry to the people who were affected. I know that I'm in a position of privilege and power, and I realize that with that comes responsibility, and I take responsibility for what happens at my show.
The show continued for a short time after the scandal, but when Ellen eventually ended it, she said the reason was that it no longer felt creatively challenging. A lot of fans didn't accept that explanation. For many viewers, the trust had already been damaged and never fully came back, no matter how much she tried to move forward. This is where Joe Rogan's perspective enters the conversation, and it definitely caught people's attention. While talking about Diddy on his podcast, Rogan highlighted something that had been right in front of everyone for years. He mentioned how strange it was that so many celebrities openly joked about Diddy's well-known parties, treating them like a badge of honor. People laughed it off at the time, but with everything being revealed now, those old jokes don't feel innocent anymore.
There was always so much East Coast, West Coast shit that's still, like, in the zeitgeist, you know, like with Biggie and Tupac, and they were all hating at each other, and they both got killed, and there was a lot going on. And then there's people that thought that Puffy was involved and Suge Knight was involved.
Rogan didn't sugarcoat anything. He directly mentioned celebrities like Ashton Kutcher and others who once talked about Diddy's wild parties as if being invited was some kind of elite status. Then he highlighted a detail many people seemed to overlook. One of the main places where these party stories were openly discussed was Ellen's talk show. Rogan's point was simple but sharp. How did so many famous people spend years around those social circles, joke about the parties on national television, laugh it off, and later say they never noticed anything unusual? The current accusations against Diddy paint a very different picture, which is why Rogan's comments hit such a nerve. These stories weren't whispered in private. They were shared publicly, and everyone just moved on. One specific clip from Ellen's 2018 interview with Diddy keeps popping up online. In the clip, Diddy invites Ellen to his parties and jokingly calls her out for never attending. He then says his events start early, but the real action happens later, around midnight, on the upper floors. Ellen laughs and reacts as if she already understands what he means. That brief moment has viewers replaying it again and again, convinced there was more behind the smiles. Her reaction felt like an inside joke that only a few people understood, and that's what audiences can't seem to ignore.
What time would your party start, let's say?
Like 9:30.
Really? That early?
Yeah.
I could make that.
Yeah.
But I could think of you of starting a party at like midnight. Like what time will it go till?
That's a different type of party, though.
Uh-huh.
No, it'll go from like 9:30 to like maybe 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock. And then, you know, we have the top 2 floors of the hotel. You know.
And then it will carry on there?
Yeah. Then No, I mean the after party.
No, I know about them.
So, let's break down why this moment actually matters and why Joe Rogan finds it so odd that Ellen's name keeps being skipped in the larger discussion. To start, Diddy appeared on Ellen's show several times. And those jokes about parties weren't random one-time comments. They came up again and again on her stage. Each time he visited, similar conversations slipped in, and no one really stopped to question them. As expected, the internet began digging deeper. Old clips started resurfacing, including a 2002 interview where Diddy appeared on Conan O'Brien's show and joked about needing locks on the doors at his parties. Back then, it sounded like edgy humor meant to get a quick laugh and move on. But now, when people watch that same clip, it doesn't land the same way. It feels unsettling, almost like a warning sign that went unnoticed for years. Whether that interpretation is fair or not, one thing is clear. These moments have sparked intense discussion online, and the conversation around them is louder than ever.
You're neat, though, right? I would imagine your closet is color coordinated. Everything is hung in a certain,
Yes.
right? So you're neat. It's just that you're not the person that puts it back. All right.
Once those old clips started circulating again, the focus quickly changed. People began asking what Ellen actually knew, if anything at all, and why she hasn't said a word. The internet, of course, kept digging. Users resurfaced a 2016 tweet where Ellen jokingly gave Diddy a playful nickname, Cuddle Snuggle Stuff, and that post started trending again. More old moments followed, including clips where Ellen was asked about Diddy and clearly avoided answering. Some viewers felt her body language looked stiff and uncomfortable, while others pointed out that most people would react the same way if they were suddenly questioned by paparazzi or unexpected interviewers. No matter which side people took, those clips only added fuel to the conversation. The lack of response, the awkward reactions, and the timing of everything made the situation appear even more suspicious in the eyes of the public.
Now, first of all, you can make someone famous overnight just by sampling their sound. So I could get you a copy of that, and then you could just see what you want to do with it. Maybe that slides in someplace real nice, you know what I mean? Okay, let me ask you for some advice here, because clearly I need some.
What was that?
I'm the human beatbox!
Joe Rogan made his point clearly and without holding back. If you were close enough to someone like Diddy to invite him onto your show again and again, joke about his party lifestyle on national television, and react as if you understood what those late-night comments meant, then people are naturally going to expect a response when the situation turns serious. According to Rogan, this isn't about placing blame. It's about responsibility. When the focus shifts and old jokes begin to sound more like admissions, staying quiet only makes things look worse. His message was simple. Once you're part of those conversations, especially in front of cameras, you can't pretend you were never involved when the truth finally comes to light.
Where are you going after this? It's all 20s. Where are you going after this? What are you doing?
You know we doing what we plan to do, girl.
The lack of response from Ellen, along with several other high-profile figures, is exactly what Rogan said makes the situation feel questionable. From the public's point of view, it's odd to see people who were once closely involved suddenly say nothing at all. That sudden quiet raises eyebrows. But there's another layer that makes this story even more complicated. Ellen's past workplace controversy may help explain why her name keeps getting pulled into this discussion. Former employees from the Ellen DeGeneres show described an atmosphere where fear was common and speaking up felt unsafe. Online, many people began pointing out how that pattern of power, silence, and pressure looks similar to what they believe exists in certain elite celebrity spaces, especially where influence and reputation matter most. That comparison has only added more fuel to the ongoing conversation.
So Ellen, what do you think? Rihanna went back to Chris. Ellen, is that a good or bad move?
It's a bad move.
Okay.
It's a bad move.
Any advice you want to give to her?
Not really.
All right then.
None of this suggests that Ellen committed any crime, but it does help explain why her name keeps being pulled into these conversations years later. There are also other stories often mentioned in the same context, like the so-called Ellen glares, where a former crew member claimed the set felt tense whenever she was around, or reports that certain guests were allegedly avoided because of personal issues. Whether every detail of those stories is fully accurate or not, many people say the pattern feels familiar. Control, pressure, and silence. Once the public starts noticing a pattern like that, they stop taking moments at face value. Old clips get replayed, reactions get reinterpreted, and even smiles or jokes begin to look different. One moment fans frequently bring up as a contradiction comes from 2009, when Chris Brown was accused of assaulting Rihanna. At that time, Ellen directly questioned Diddy on her show about why he allowed Chris to stay at his home afterward. She spoke firmly, saying she didn't want any woman to believe it was okay to return to someone who had harmed her. That moment once positioned her as someone taking a strong moral stand. Looking back now, viewers see it through a different lens. Many are asking how someone who is so outspoken about accountability then could remain silent today, especially when similar questions are being raised about people she once defended and joked with publicly.
Well, this leads me to the perfect thing, because I would like you to clear something up. There's a lot of talk going on with Chris Brown being at your place in Miami, and you arranging Chris and Rihanna getting back together. Now, you want to talk about that?
See, I wouldn't use my Twitter to talk about that because that's somebody else's business.
I know, but you gave them your house.
Yeah. But we're talking about Twitter.
Yeah.
How you use Twitter, and that's something else. I'm just saying I wouldn't really Twitter about that.
Okay, let's not Twitter about it. Let's talk about it.
Okay. Can we dance?
Yes.
I would like to dance.
Dance. Do it.
Later on, when the workplace allegations connected to Ellen's own show began to spread, former employees described what they called a toxic atmosphere, one that felt stressful, intimidating, and emotionally exhausting. That's when online criticism shifted toward claims of hypocrisy. Not because it proved any criminal behavior, but because the contrast was hard to ignore. On camera, she promoted kindness and spoke out about protecting women, while behind the scenes, staff members were describing an environment filled with fear and pressure. Then, stepping back even further, another storyline added fuel to the debate. Reports surfaced that Ellen and Portia sold their Montecito home and relocated to the English countryside, with Ellen publicly linking the move to the political climate in the United States. Many viewers weren't convinced by that explanation. To them, it didn't look like a random lifestyle change. Online, people pointed out that the timing lined up closely with Diddy's situation dominating the news. As his legal troubles took over headlines, fans began paying attention to which celebrities spoke up and which ones went completely silent. That's when things took a darker turn. The internet didn't just follow the story, it started creating new ones. At one point, extreme rumors spread claiming Ellen had an arrest warrant connected to her former DJ, Stephen Twitch Boss, who tragically passed away in late 2022. The rumor even suggested a secret recording had been played in court. Fact-checkers quickly shut that down and confirmed it was completely false. What stood out most wasn't the rumor itself, but how fast it spread. People didn't stop to ask if it was real. Many were ready to believe anything that matched the growing idea that something deeper might be happening. That hunger for answers kept Ellen's name trending alongside Diddy's, even when facts didn't support the claims. The question stopped being, is this true, and became, does this fit the story? With Ellen's image already damaged by years of controversy, her name became a magnet for shocking claims tied to darker Hollywood narratives. Once a public reputation cracks, rumors stick more easily, especially when they sound like part of something bigger and mysterious. That's the real risk. Rumors travel faster than facts, and once trust is lost, explanations rarely erase the doubt. That's why these stories keep coming back year after year, even after being debunked. Ellen even acknowledged this herself in her Netflix special For Your Approval. She joked about being pushed out of the industry and admitted that the "Be Kind, But Not Kind" headline had essentially become her public identity. It was her way of recognizing the damage, but it also reminded audiences just how strongly that narrative continues to follow her wherever she goes.
And I've said it before, but I'll say it again. If I've done anything in the past 19 years, I hope I've inspired you to be yourself, your true, authentic self. And if someone is brave enough to tell you who they are, be brave enough to support them, even if you don't understand. They're showing you who they are, and that is the biggest gift anybody can ever give you. And by opening your heart and your mind, you're going to be that much more compassionate. And compassion is what makes the world a better place.
What really stood out to people during Ellen's Netflix special wasn't just the humor, it was her delivery. The way she talked about ego, being exposed, and how negativity always seems louder than support landed differently for many viewers. She explained that the industry runs on extremes, where people either admire you completely or strongly dislike you, and the criticism always makes more noise. Instead of hearing that as self-reflection or accountability, a lot of viewers saw it as deflection. To them, it sounded like someone still struggling to process the backlash rather than fully accepting it. That emotional gap made some feel Ellen was still in denial about what actually went wrong, which only reignited public debate all over again. Then another viral moment pushed her name back into the spotlight. NFL quarterback Aaron Rodgers appeared on Joe Rogan's podcast and made a surprising comparison, suggesting that Ellen's old talk show set looked similar to the architecture of Epstein's Island. Rogan quickly shut that down, saying it resembled a common Los Angeles-style building and was most likely a coincidence. Still, the fact that the comparison even came up speaks volumes about where Ellen's reputation stands today. People have begun placing her name into extreme conspiracy discussions alongside some of the darkest figures in modern pop culture. Not because there's evidence, but because the internet thrives on dramatic, movie-like narratives. At this point, the storyline often seems to matter more than the facts. That's what makes the situation so intense. Every theory, every old clip, and every recycled rumor becomes another thread in a web that audiences can't stop weaving. So, what's really being said here? It's time to move past the insults and focus on the real pattern behind these reactions.
Boy, oh boy, Ellen, I love you. I know you didn't ask where I've just come from, but I just got off a plane. I'm on tour. I just did 5 nights in a row. And I just made it here, and I love you.
I love you too.
When that whole discussion about the building in Los Angeles started circulating, the internet exploded with theories. Some people claimed Ellen knew more than she let on and quietly relocated to England while Diddy faced serious federal trouble. Others argued that Joe Rogan was simply voicing what many had been thinking for months, questioning why some celebrities are publicly torn apart while others seem to get a much easier pass. Then came the so-called body language analysis. Old clips of Ellen avoiding questions resurfaced, with users saying she looked nervous or uncomfortable. To be clear, that isn't proof of anything. It's perception. But perception is exactly what drives online chaos, and it's what keeps comment sections heated and nonstop. As you scroll through reactions, a familiar storyline keeps repeating. The toxic workplace accusations, the apology that never fully satisfied people, the sudden move overseas that many treat like a hidden signal, and now the Diddy situation tying everything together. Piece by piece, audiences are connecting these moments into one large narrative, and that narrative has become the fuel behind this controversy. At the core of it all, many people feel Ellen never faced real consequences, and they're searching for a reason why. That brings everything back to the original question. Why does it feel like Ellen's name is avoided when Diddy comes up? A lot of people believe the difference isn't legal, but social. They think Ellen still benefits from her fame, wealth, and deep Hollywood connections. Even after stepping away from television, she has enough influence to control her own image. The difference now is that voices like Joe Rogan don't follow the same unspoken Hollywood rules. He says what others won't, not to accuse, but to challenge the silence. That's why this topic keeps blowing up. When someone finally questions people seen as untouchable, audiences pay attention. Once a platform as large as Rogan's treats something like a serious question, the discussion spreads fast. This isn't about claiming Ellen is worse than Diddy. That kind of conclusion would be unfair and reckless. The real issue people are pointing out is why some celebrities face nonstop scrutiny while others seem protected, even when there are clips, quotes, and moments that feel questionable. That's why this conversation won't fade away. The Diddy scandal didn't just create new headlines, it caused a rewind. People are revisiting old interviews, rewatching past jokes, and treating them like clues instead of casual entertainment. This goes beyond gossip. Audiences are trying to understand patterns of power and behavior within celebrity culture. So what's next for Ellen? Most likely, a quiet life away from the spotlight. Unless real, verifiable evidence ever connects her to criminal activity, not rumors, not theories, not body language. She'll probably be remembered more for the workplace controversy and her damaged reputation than for anything related to Diddy. As for Diddy, his legal situation is far from finished. Court filings, investigations, and civil lawsuits will likely keep his name in the news for a long time. Every new development sends out another ripple, pulling more names into the conversation, some fairly and others not. That's the reality of Hollywood's rumor cycle. Once the internet senses a story, it doesn't stop spinning. As things stand heading into late 2025, the Diddy case remains active with real legal updates keeping it in public view. Federal investigators continue examining allegations made by multiple accusers, and the 2024 raids on his properties in Los Angeles and Miami only intensified scrutiny across the industry. His legal team has denied all wrongdoing, but the impact on his reputation is undeniable. Major brands quietly stepped away, and many former allies stopped showing public support. That silence only deepened public suspicion about how fame and power shield certain figures in Hollywood. That brings the conversation back to Ellen DeGeneres. Her public image never fully recovered after her show ended in 2022. She's stayed mostly out of the spotlight, no daily media presence, no talk show, and only rare public appearances with Portia de Rossi in the US and the UK. Even so, her name keeps resurfacing whenever a major Hollywood controversy breaks, almost as if her downfall became a reference point for how quickly public opinion can turn. Meanwhile, Joe Rogan continues stirring debate on the Joe Rogan Experience. His discussions around celebrity culture and power dynamics regularly go viral because he isn't restricted by traditional PR boundaries. He says what many people think but hesitate to say out loud. As the Diddy investigation continues and more names potentially surface, the public focus is shifting again. People aren't just asking who's guilty anymore. They're asking who's protected. That question is now hanging over Hollywood as we move forward because silence around certain names can sometimes speak louder than any headline. So what do you think? Has Ellen been unfairly pulled back into the spotlight, or is the public right to keep asking questions Hollywood avoids? And with Diddy's legal battle still unfolding, do you think more big names could be dragged into this next? Share your thoughts in the comments. The conversation isn't over, and we want to know where you stand. If you found this breakdown interesting, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Backstory Files for daily celebrity deep dives, untold scandals, and behind-the-scenes Hollywood stories. New uploads drop every day.